I'm Wilsar, and I write and think about brand narrative, and strategic communications. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I think is one of the most under-discussed threats facing brands and organizations right now. I published a long-form article about this earlier this week, and I'll link in the description below. But I wanted to come on here and just talk through it because I think it's one of those topics that's easier to absorb when someone walks you through it out loud. So let me start with a number. In 2025, Pew Research surveyed 25 countries. They asked people, what's the biggest threat facing your nation right now? About 70%, over 70% said the spread of false information online. Not the economy, not terrorism, not climate change, false information online. In Germany and Poland, it was the single greatest perceived threat by a wide margin. Most of us hear this and think, okay, that's for politics, that's for politicians, that's for Congress, that's for something governments should handle and platforms should figure out. And sure, you're right. They should be worried. But what I want to talk about today is the parallel crisis that's happening right in front of us. Misinformation is increasingly being used as a weapon against brands, public figures, and organizations. And most of them have no idea it's happening until the damage is already done. Let me walk you through a case study, and I'll say up front what I say in the article. She is the example, not the point. So whether you love Taylor Swift or you're completely over it, stay with me because the point is much bigger than her. Last year, in about, I think, October or late last year, Taylor Swift releases The Life of a Showgirl, fastest selling album in history. And almost immediately, something strange starts happening online. Posts start circulating accusing her of embedding Nazi symbolism in her merchandise. She was accused of endorsing MAGA politics, of signaling trad-wife gender norms, all framed as a leftist critique. The evidence was thin. For example, a lightning bolt necklace that kind of vaguely resembled SS insignia. A single word choice in one song. That's it. But as they do, the narrative spread online and spread wide. But here's the part I need you to really sit with me, because this is where it gets important for anyone who works in communications. Her fans pushed back hard. They jumped in to defend her, to call out the bad faith framing. And that pushback, well, was exactly what the operation needed. Every single rebuttal amplified the original claim. The algorithm rewarded the engagement because it doesn't really know the difference between outrage and agreement. It just sees activity. So millions of people who never ever believed the accusation helped spread it anyway, just by arguing against it. A behavioral intelligence firm called Gudea, they are cited in the Rolling Stone article piece that I am linking in my article, analyzed over 24,000 posts and 18,000 accounts across 14 platforms in the weeks after the release. And what they discovered, what they found should concern every brand strategist and communications professional watching this. Just 3.77% of accounts drove 28% of the entire conversation online. That's not fans arguing on the internet. That's not organic public discourse. That is infrastructure. A small number of coordinated accounts seeding narrative and then letting authentic user behavior like outrage, defense, debate carry it the rest of the way across the internet. And quite frankly, it gets more alarming. The network behind the Swift campaign had significant overlap with a separate coordinated operation that targeted Blake Lively during her legal battle with Justin Baldoni. Same account, different target, same playbook. Researchers are calling it a cross-event amplification network, reusable infrastructure for reputational attacks that can be turned on, aimed at a target, turned off, and aimed somewhere else. That is not a one-off. That is a system being built. That is intentional. So now I want to show you what happens when the same machinery gets aimed at something much bigger than an album rollout. Last year, September, Charlie Kirk was murdered at Utah Valley University. Within hours, the machinery was running. False information started spreading almost immediately. Grok, the AI chat box on Twitter or X, the one with 6.2 million followers, generated and spread incorrect, false information about the suspect in timelines. It identified a specific person as a shooter. That person was a 77-year-old retired banker in Toronto named Michael Mallinson. He had nothing to do with any of this. And yet, he found himself at the center of a coordinated misidentification campaign. His name, his face hatched to post accusing him of murder. Poor guy, he told the CBC, and I'm quoting directly here, "I felt violated." Meanwhile, underneath all of that noise, analysts at the Center for Internet Security and the Institute for Strategic Dialogue were documenting something much more organized. Russian-backed groups, including an operation called Operation Overload, were manufacturing fake news reports, fabricating celebrity quotes, and creating false images, all of it designed to inflame both conservative and LGBTQ plus audiences at the same time. More than 46,000 posts on Twitter discussing the shooting contained the word trans. The majority of them were falsely speculating the shooter was transgender. 26,000 posts expressed either concern about or desire for civil war. A former DHS official told reporters, the goal wasn't just for people to consume this content. The goal was for people to act on it. But here's the part I really want you to hear, because this is the part that gets lost in the coverage. The attack did not stay contained to Charlie Kirk or the suspected shooter. These operations targeted broader categories: left-leaning groups, LGBTQ plus communities, and their organizational supporters, nonprofits, philanthropic staff, advocacy organizations, DEI practitioners, campus organizations. People and institutions with absolutely no connection to this event suddenly found themselves named in a coordinated information operation because they fit a narrative someone was trying to move. Online communities were doing open source sleuthing that reached into people's personal social media, their relatives' Facebook pages, their wider social networks. Because once a narrative catches fire, it pulls in everyone in the orbit. If you work in or fund organizations that touch anything politically sensitive, this is not hypothetical. So what does all of this actually mean for people working in brand, in communications, PR, or nonprofit leadership? Here's how I see the problem. Most organizations treat misinformation as background noise, something to monitor. And quite frankly, honestly, most aren't even doing that unless there's already a fire. And by the next way, what we are now seeing from a Taylor Swift album rollout to the aftermath of a political violence is that misinformation can be aimed at you deliberately, efficiently, and at a scale that overwhelms your ability to course correct once it's already in motion. A small number of coordinated accounts can seed a narrative in fringe spaces, watch it migrate to mainstream platforms, and then let organic user behavior carry it the rest of the way. By the time your listening tools flag it, if that's even set up, that discourse has already been shaped. And with AI, the cost of running these operations is only going down. It's now cheaper and faster than ever to generate fake accounts, produce content at volume, and personalize attacks to feel credible. The Charlie Kirk case showed us AI chatbots with millions and millions of followers amplifying false information in real time with no correction and no accountability. The 3.77% problem is going to become the 10% problem and then the 20% problem. A lot of narrative playbooks being used right now were built for a world where stories emerge organically through traditional media, customer sentiment, employee behavior, where the playing field was relatively level. That playing field no longer exists. Okay, I'm not saying any of this to scare you or make you feel like there's nothing you can do. I genuinely believe communicators are capable of rising to this. But we have to stop pretending the old playbook is enough. So let me share a few things that I think the new standard has to include. Number one, your narrative infrastructure is now a defensive asset. It's not just a brand virtue. A brand with a strong, clear, consistently communicated identity is harder to destabilize. When people already know who you are and what you stand for, a coordinated smear has less surface to grip. If there's ambiguity about who you are, someone else will fill the gap and they won't fill it in your favor. Number two, monitoring is not the same as intelligence. Tracking mentions and sentiment is table stakes now. What's actually urgent is understanding who is driving a conversation and how it's structured. So you can tell the difference between organic public discourse and something that was deliberately engineered to make you respond. Those require completely different responses. Number three, engaging with bad faith narratives often backfires. I know this is hard. Leadership is panicking. The instinct is to correct the record immediately. But the Taylor Swift case shows exactly why that instinct can make things worse. Her defenders spread the claim further than it ever would have reached on its own, knowing when not to engage and holding that line, even when people internally are pushing you to respond, is the most important skills in communications right now. Number four, nonprofits and philanthropy are not exempt. I will say this plainly because I think a lot of people in those spaces assume they're flying under the radar. The Kirk case showed us clearly that you don't have to be the target to get pulled in. You just have to be in the orbit of a narrative someone is trying to move. That is enough. And number five, the AI dimension changes the urgency. The organizations that are building the capability to detect and respond to coordinated information attacks right now are going to have a real advantage over the ones who wait until they're already in the middle of one. So I'll come back to the top, and I'll say it again. 72% of adults across 25 countries have already named this as one of the most serious threats facing their nations. The public already understands the stakes. The question is whether the brands, the nonprofits, the comms teams operating inside this environment are going to treat this with the same seriousness. The only question is whether your strategy has caught up to the world that's actually operating in it. I'd love to know what you see in your work. Drop in the comments. The full article is linked in the description if you want to go deeper. And I'll see you in the next video.